So this past weekend, and welcome back to 2SkeGEEKS. I'm sorry about that. This is your boy Will Call, and I'm just so excited. I almost got ahead of myself about this past weekend because I had the tremendous pleasure and honor and every other positive accolade and superlative that I can name and think of to meet a tremendous, I already used that word, but an amazing man, homie, hero from Annapolis, Maryland, Mr. Rodney Barnes. Uh, I'm just so excited about this opportunity, but I'm going to stick to the script and let's charge forward. So I've mentioned Mr. Barnes in other episodes, in one particular episode, 3B, in which we were talking about great comic books to read. And I'd already read through two trade paperbacks, I believe, of the book behind me, Philadelphia, of which Rodney is the writer, in conjunction with another fantastic artist, Jason Sean Alexander. Rodney, on the Saturday, the 25th, when I got a chance to go to a comic books signing that he was willing to give his free time to sign books on that Saturday. That's what he did for me and many others who enjoyed and continue to enjoy his series, Philadelphia. So do yourself a favor and pick up that book. But continuing on with the Friday, the 24th, I got a chance to meet him face to face. I also got a chance to share some ideas with him about my own writing. That was on Saturday when at the comic book signing, but also got a chance to say, as I said already, that he signed books. I got a chance to film his acceptance speech of the Key to the City of Annapolis, listen to his childhood friends, and get an idea of some of his childhood experiences growing up in Annapolis and Eastport, a little portion suburb of Annapolis. You also got a chance to watch one of his television shows, one of his newer television shows that's on HBO Max. It is called Winning Time, and it is about the Lakers dynasty when Kareem joined the team and Jerry Buss bought the team, and Kareem was already on the team, but also during the time when Kareem was thinking about changing his name. All of that is in that one episode, which was so good. Please do yourself a favor to make the time to watch Winning Time. It's on HBO Max, it's on TBS sometimes, and it's also on TNT. But of course, the unadulterated version is on HBO Max. So to get the full gist of it, I recommend that. But anyway, the city of Annapolis also put together a little short biographical film, about 5 to 7 minutes, about his growing up and the works that he's done over the years. And lastly, he's just a great, phenomenal artist, writer, of whom is willing to come on this channel to do a little interview with us. And I'll promise Rodney I'll try not to be so geeked up when we do that. And so I just want to make this right so that way you'll be more willing to come on to the show. That's why what you're seeing is the excitement and the giddiness. But some of Rodney's works are Boondocks, a tremendous cartoon that had John Witherspoon, Regina King doing the voicing, among many other persons that came onto the show in guest roles. The cartoon won many awards for the writing, of which, again, he is that good. Then he also worked on Major Payne. He worked on, what was the next project? Oh, Bulletproof with Damon Wayans and Adam Sandler. And then he worked on My Wife and Kids with Damon Wayans, in which he was the lead writer. And on that show and producer. From there, he did Everybody Hates Chris. And from there, he also, I'm sorry, reversing a little bit, he's also been involved in other different movies like Pelican Brief and the writing on the writing staff. He's also helped write for the Oscars. It's just his ability to write is so diverse. Some of his newer projects are the Wu-Tang American Saga, Wu-Tang Clan American Saga, that's on Hulu. And I already mentioned Winning Time about the Lakers, but he's also going to do some other sports stories as well. I believe he mentioned one about Tiger Woods and several others, but I cannot remember what they are off the top of my head. And lastly, going back to the theme of Annapolis, he's going to touch on one of the mental hospitals that were in the suburb town of Annapolis called Crownsville, and that was the name of the hospital. I think I have a feeling it might be a suspense or horror or a combination of the two that Rodney will do. And I'm really excited to see that because with the talent that he puts into this, so far as horror, there's not a genre that he cannot write. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do for that. And for comic books, another comic book that he's written was Star Wars Lando Calrissian, the Double or Nothing story. And so there were Star Wars fans dressed in regalia as bounty hunters, Mandalorian bounty hunters who came out to meet Rodney. He is a very well known, but yet quietly well known for persons who are really astute about knowing who the producers are. He is well known in that circle, but if you're not paying attention to those credits very well at the ends of shows or in the beginnings of shows, you might have forgotten or might not know who Rodney Barnes is. But as his stature, he's a 6'8" guy. He's a big guy, and so is his talent. His talent surpasses his stature. So pay attention to that and do yourself a favor and Google him up and follow his works. And what I'm going to do now is show you some of the Key to the City reception or award ceremony that he participated in and that we all were there for him. And I'm really excited to share this with you as a proud Annapolitan, that you will get a chance to see how proud everyone is about and for Rodney from Annapolis and the Eastport community who in this you'll see where they call Eastport persons call themselves East Puerto Ricans. It's kind of comical, as well as just knowing some of his friends that I won't show the roasting part or some of the things but it's just fun to see how persons really love Rodney and the effect that he's had on their lives growing up and currently. And I hope that this inspires you to not only participate and consume the brilliance of him, but also look at this as a way to look at American culture and diversify ourselves and make America better via brilliance and getting to know other people. And so this is not just a black culture thing. This is an American culture thing because we all are influenced by each other in this country. So, and I'm so proud that he does it in such a positive, strongly positive way. Thank you, Mr. Barnes. We thank you. We appreciate you. And I'm not going to delay any further, and I'm going to show you the award ceremony. 2SkeGEEKS out. It's your boy Will Call. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next week after you view this showing.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Glenn. So before we begin, I want to acknowledge something that is on the easel over there that is shrouded in secrecy. I want to bring to the stage the first Latino Olympic artist to represent the United States. Right? So what must also be noted is that others in this line of artists are Picasso, Matisse, Dime, and Peter Max, just to name a few. I want to introduce you all to Jesse Rodales.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm a big fan, Mr. Barnes, really big fan of all your shows. And the mayor and the city, everyone called me up and asked me what I created. I said, absolute count me in. And it's my tribute to you.
So for anyone who needs to take lessons on how to do it as an artist, because being an artist is not always an easy endeavor, this is an example right there. So, right. so there's several backdrops. Again, the stuff that I mentioned before, but also the Eastport community of Annapolis is a serious backdrop in all of this. So today we are celebrating the achievements of Mr. Rodney Barnes, East Puerto Rican. One awesome thing about this and why this is important, I believe, is because this city, like many other places, produced amazing human beings. And
I'm going to get the city council up here anyway.
Alderman Gary, has he come back? He may still be at the demonstration. Okay, all right. He's out for good cause. All right.
Not sunglasses. That's a Hollywood moment there, sir.
Well, would you like for me to say? Oh, you really want me to read it?
Yeah, can you, yes.
Okay, with pleasure. The City of Annapolis proclamation. Whereas Rodney Barnes was born September 19, 1963 in Annapolis, Maryland. He was raised in the community of Eastport, attending Anne Arundel County Public Schools and discovering the love of storytelling through books, comic books, television, and film. Mr. Barnes graduated from Annapolis High School and attended Howard University in Washington, D.C. And whereas Mr. Barnes worked as a production assistant on numerous shows before moving to Los Angeles in 1995 to pursue his dream of becoming a screenwriter. And whereas upon making his way to Hollywood, Mr. Barnes found success in writing and producing for the Damon Wayans sitcom, My Wife and Kids, the Chris Rock sitcom, Everybody Hates Chris, and the animated comedy, The Boondocks. And whereas, with critical acclaim for his productions, terrible glare, Mr. Barnes won a Peabody Award for the Return of the King episode of The Boondocks, and an American Film Institute Award for Everybody Hates Chris. In addition, he has been nominated for a BET Comedy Award, an NAACP Image Award, and the Writers Guild Award. And whereas Mr. Barnes has moved between screenwriting and producing, with credits including the HBO series Vinyl, the Comedy Central animated sitcom Legends of Chamberlain Heights, and Hulu's series Marvel's Runaways. And whereas comic books were an early love, and Mr. Barnes revisited his passion by penning Birth of a Patriot, a short story for Marvel Comics, and Lando, Double or Nothing, an extended version of the Star Wars franchise. That's why the Star Wars guys are here. Furthering his passion, he has authored graphic novel series, including Philadelphia and Twin Critical. And whereas, most recently, he is writer and executive producer of HBO's Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. And whereas the desire to serve his community and inspire young people in Annapolis and beyond, Mr. Barnes has been a generous benefactor and mentor, inspiring the next generation of creatives with their love of the written word. Now, therefore, I, Gabby Buckley, Mayor of the City of Annapolis, Maryland, do hereby proclaim June 24th, 2022 as Rodney Barnes Day in the City of Annapolis.
All right.
I have my own questions, and one of those I think is a leading question. It's going to help us kind of process what we just saw. So, how much of what we see is influenced by your actual life?
You mean like within the episode? I mean, obviously I care about the culture. So anytime I get an opportunity, I'm old enough to have seen some really bad sports-themed movies and TV shows. So anytime you get an opportunity to tell a story like this and you can inject something other than just the sports aspect into it, that's sort of the goal. So a lot of my heart is in it. Keith can tell you how great of a basketball player I was. So I don't know how much of that part is in there, but certainly my love of the game and my love of the culture.
So, on that exact same note, because you led me into something that I think is really important, is how important do you think understanding your culture is in being an artist and kind of provoking thought around the subject matter related to our culture?
I think I was in Africa not too long ago, and I was in Bora Bora a little while before, and I happened to see a couple of episodes of television that I had done before, and I saw my name like in Africa, and then the French Polynesian Islands, I see my name, and so you think when you do this that it's just for us within America and that type of thing, but you realize when you get outside of the country that these stories sort of frame how the world sees us.
particularly outside of the country, to appreciate how much it is loved.
So, another common theme that I think is important is you're a writer, and writers have the vision and a specific voice that they lend to a project. But when I think one of the distinctive things is the fact that you're an executive producer, and that you also produce. And can you tell, for the audience, can you tell us a little bit about kind of the difference and kind of what it means to produce? Because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, producing is a lot of different things. I think in a show like Money Time, I'm the only brother that is not playing the liquor. So the casting decisions, I remember we had a discussion one time about Michael Cooper when we were casting Michael Cooper. And there was a rapper, I won't say his name, but he was really light-skinned. And Michael Cooper was really dark-skinned. And so there was a discussion like they really wanted this actor. They didn't see what the big deal was. And I'm like, we will get dragged on Twitter so bad if we get a light-skinned Michael Cooper. And, you know, we ended up getting Delonte D'Souza, who's from Baltimore, incidentally, and great actor. And, you know, there's little things like that that you don't realize. You know, there's really no decision maker in the room, or no one can say, hey, maybe we should think twice about this. That's when things sort of aren't realistic. And just to be able to have a voice at the table, the final decision-making table of how things come across, that's the biggest thing. I think also in shaping the psyche of how the show, the types of stories that we tell. I mean, there was a way that you could tell that story without the naming of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and what it meant, and you know, him having a soul-searching journey. It could have just been the disagreement between Magic and Kareem, and you didn't have to get into any of that other stuff. And so, just being able to influence the way stories are told, I think both in shows like, certainly in shows that are highly charged, shows like the Boondocks that have a lot to say, that are really, really loud. You can put those shows in different hands and they may not land in the way that you want them to. So, to answer the question, it's a lot of different hats. It's storytelling, it's casting, it's choosing locations. The brother that played it in Mom was DOC from the Death Row days, like way back, for those that are old enough to remember DOC. And just trying to find authentic voices that feel like, you know, it was funny when we were casting that character, it was a bunch of polished, the dude that played Aladdin, they were real shiny and pretty. And we ended up going with someone who was just raspy and felt like he had lived through life and gone through something. If you know anything about the DOC, he's lived a difficult life. He was on top, had his vocal cords severed. And so, but it's something about his story as a character, as a real person, that sort of bled into the idea of what we wanted for that scene. So it's a lot of different hats, but it's the hats that matter. So yeah.
Behind, as you mentioned, regardless of whatever you do, it's like I really want to, you know, lend time back to Annapolis. So has that been a thought of yours in your storytelling, or?
Yeah. Okay. I talk about Annapolis in books, and there's a lot of things coming up where I talk about Annapolis. But it's odd because sometimes I talk about the Annapolis that I knew versus the Annapolis that exists in the moment. A lot of that speaks to Eastport in particular. The community has changed a lot. You know, the streets that I played on when Morrell came to me and asked if he wanted to be my friend. You know, there was a period of time that I remember when gentrification came in and the city changed. Well, the community changed. I remember when we were fairly integrated, and I didn't really think about race in the same way that I do sometimes when I walk through the neighborhoods now. And I don't judge it because I understand that the only constant in life is change. But
We are extremely proud of you. And yes, this is always home, and you are always welcome here.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
I mean, I think that about wraps it up. And some people make investments by writing a check, some people make investments by talking about it. It is another thing for someone to have a very successful career, be very busy, and live on the other side of the country, and decide that it is important to come to their hometown and sit up on the stage all the time, right? And give us this time and energy. And for that, I think we should all stand and give it up. Rodney Barnes.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank everyone for coming out tonight. I really appreciate this. Now the pressure's on. What can I do next? What can I come up with next? But I really thank all of you, love all of you, and hope we can all get together again. Thank you. Congratulations.